Hi, I'm author SC Vincent, and today I wanted to talk to you about some video games. In my opinion, what are the top three Japanese role playing games of all time? And these are games that I personally played, so I haven't played them in a while, so I might be a little rusty, but I'm gonna show you some videos. And first, I want to just let you know that the videos are not mine. They're ones I got off YouTube. So credit to those who made them. You'll see them in the video. But first, let me tell you who I am and what I do. I am, like I said, an author. This is my Amazon page. I write science fiction, fantasy, horror. My latest book is this one right here, the Sakura Element. Young adult, science fiction, plenty of action, romance, and you get horror, high fantasy, things like that. So if you want to support the channel, support me, go ahead and check all that out. It'd be helpful. So for the first video, for the first game in the top three, now I don't know, I would say this is probably number three. This is the number one being the best. So the third one would be Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I played this one on the 3DS, and it is kind of a story about these two titans, kind of like the gods of the world. They fight each other, and they kind of end in a duel, like end in a they can't kill each other at the end, essentially. And the story they have different kind of life forms living on each Titan. And so the story begins kind of like that with the characters fighting in a war against them. And there's a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of lovable characters, kind of like what's the Shulk and Ryan, and they have like these little catchphrases. Like Ryan will say in combat, "It's Ryan time." It's things like that. The characters that you'll really remember. The story has a lot of twists and turns, and it gets really crazy towards the end. I don't know if I really want to spoil it, but I played it on the 3DS. So I'm kind of going, kind of back and forth here. I played it on a 3DS the new 3DS, because it had increased graphical fidelity and processing power that the Wii didn't have. This was originally a Wii game. So the 3DS also had kind of a nub that gave you a second kind of camera control, which was helpful for this game, since on the Wii it didn't have very good camera control, and it had very muddy graphics. So the combat for this one is more like kind of a MMO RPG, where you select your attack, and there's kind of a cooldown system where you can choose what your strategy is going to be in the next attack. This is the Monado. This is what the main character uses to fight. And these are some of the other characters in the game. There's a lot of twists and turns, like I said, with the characters. A lot of shocking, maybe deaths, and a lot of crazy things that happen to them. It has your kind of traditional JRPG story where it's you're fighting gods, and it gets absolutely crazy towards the end. It's very touching. It's a very touching story. The graphics, I think the graphics are good. I really like the art style. It reminds me of kind of that Final Fantasy art style with the tactics games, or in that kind of universe a little bit. Let's see. So this is kind of the beginning of the game, where it just is a introduction. It's very complex as well. There's a affinity system. There's obviously it's been a while since I played it. There's a huge open world too. So the MMO aspects can be felt not only in combat but also in the big open world system. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Xenoblade series by now, as there are so many of them, but this is the first one, and I had to say I didn't like any of the sequels because I was always wanting a sequel to his story, Shulk's story, and what they did was they started something new each game, and they kind of tried to tie it all together at the end, but I didn't like any of the other games. Um, so I would definitely recommend this one. I would say the only drawbacks of it would be because of the mapping system, because of the how big the world is and the map. It can be hard to find what you need to find, especially when it comes to the side quests. So it can be kind of tedious going like around in circles in this huge sprawling world looking for a certain amount of something to complete a quest. That's probably the biggest downside of the game, but other than that, it's definitely, I think, one of the best JRPGs, especially in the modern era, within the last couple generations of gaming. You might not be all that impressed with the graphics. I mean, you can try playing. They did remake it for the Switch, but I'm just showing you the one that I played. So, next on to the next one, number 2. This one is for the PS2. It is Dragon Quest VIII. This is, I would say, the most classic of kind of all JRPGs. It has the classic turn-based combat. It has the kind of Pokemon Monster Coliseum system. It has kind of a love story. It has the traditional kind of fantasy tropes that you would look for when you want to play a role-playing game. And it has a lot of charm, and of course the art style is amazing. It has the Akira Toriyama character designs. This game is not easy. It's like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 isn't an easy game. I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles 3DS is not an easy game, but this game is actually pretty tough. It came out during the PS2 era, and the first area might filter you. You just saw the boss for the first area. If you can't defeat the first boss of the game, you might be out of luck, because it's definitely gets you ready, because this is definitely a game you'll have to grind a bit for. But I would say, there's a ton of great things about this. There's a lot of side characters who have their own motivations and plots, and there's a really cool boss, final boss of the game, who's like a jester character, and you have to kind of defeat the evil. And there's a twist at the end of the story as to I think who the main character truly is, and it's definitely something I recommend everyone play. It's a classic. It's better than Dragon Quest 9, 10, and 11. I think it's probably the best Dragon Quest game. I've played Dragon Quest 4. I beat 4. I've beat 7 and 8, and 11. And I would say this is the best one. So if you want to get into Dragon Quest, I would definitely get Dragon Quest VIII Journey of the Cursed King. But I would say it might be difficult because it's hard to get a PS2 copy, because most PS2s don't work anymore, and it might be hard to find a copy. You can emulate it if that's an option for you, or you can get the 3DS remake, which I think is also kind of rare now. But the story kind of focuses on the cursed king in question, which is that character I showed you in the beginning. This kind of let's see if I can find him. This character right here, he's actually the king who's been turned into this ugly creature. I would say definitely this is one of the best JRPGs. It's, in my opinion, it's the perfect length. It's the perfect kind of the perfect story, perfect combat. Is there any downsides? I would say that the battle system with the monsters, the capturing the monsters, is a little. It's not really my thing, and I've never really liked the casinos in Dragon Quest either. I always kind of thought I just don't like the gambling stuff. It's not entertaining for me. Every Dragon Quest game kind of has those things though. So, but if you don't like traditional role playing game, you probably won't like this game. But all right, so we're gonna move on to. Well, hold on. Is there anything truly bad about this game, other than personal preference? I will say that there are some aspects where it can be pretty brutal in terms of the difficulty. There's one level later on near the end of the game that I truly just did not like. But overall, it's almost a perfect game. Yeah, so definitely check this out. And so number one, probably I would say the best JRPG of all time, and you know it, everyone's probably played this, Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1. Now, the reason why this one's number one is just how great it is. Like, it's truly, it has such a touching story. I would say this game is a piece of art. Graphically, I mean, we could start off with just saying some of the bad things about it. The graphics are not the best. If you compare it to like Final Fantasy IX, which is also on the same system, these graphics are kind of terrible in comparison. But it was like their first game, one of the first games for this console. But and some of the difficulty for the optional bosses, it's kind of lame. It's like I don't really think some aspects of like certain discs, certain part, because it comes in 4 discs. Some of them aren't so fun, like the optional bosses or certain levels with like Kate Sith. There's that one level with Kate Sith I thought was kind of dumb. But other than that, there's like the characters are so good and the story is so good that you kind of forgive it for all its faults. There's a reason why this game was so revolutionary and so famous. It just it does so much right. So I would definitely. This is the PC version, by the way, that I'm showing. I played it on the Switch, which is kind of a port of, I think, the PC version. I mean, there's just like so many memorable characters and it's just moments like you really can't. You won't. It'll stay with you, and it stayed with gamers for years, ever since it was released since '97. They've even gone on to kind of remaking / reimagining everything about the game. And of course, Aerith. That's the moment that everyone remembers, Aerith's death. Kind of, I think it's around here actually. So I would definitely, you have to play this game. This is one of those games, if you consider yourself a gamer, I would say if you consider yourself a gamer, all 3 of these games you have to play. Like watching clips of this just really takes you back. Like I remember playing this. This moment here with this cutscene, where Cloud, it's kind of famous with how goofy it looks when there's an eruption, or I think they get attacked and Cloud is running away and he gets thrown off of the um, his wheelchair. That's kind of goofy. It's funny, but that's kind of one of the things that you can look down on it and say that's a bad thing. Is like the graphics kind of don't hold up, and look at them; they're just polygons, the triangles, um, basically. But really, like some people, I would say that one thing that I disliked about the game was the ending. For some reason, to some people, it's ambiguous. Like they don't like. I think I've heard Square Enix say that they actually fail. The main characters fail in the mission. Um, like the humans die at the end or something. But like overall, but at the end, you can hear like children laughing, and apparently that's like what Red. They say that's Red 13. This character right here, the dog, his children. But I think personally, I think it's a sign that everyone lived and everything succeeded, especially since um, you see the sequel, like the canon sequels with like Advent Children, like they make more. So I think everything turned out to be. I mean, that's just like a nitpick of mine, but like this game has a story that really sticks with you, and the gameplay kind of has it's an active what's it called, ATB. It's kind of an active. You're kind of timed to pick which attacks you have, and which attacks you get to choose, and that's kind of how the gameplay is. You just walk around, kind of like a traditional PS1 open world game, and you get into random battles, and you have the ATB system, and you pick materia as kind of your magic system. I mean, this game has sold millions. All of these games have kind of sold millions, or are pretty successful. Maybe the least successful in the West is probably Dragon Quest, but and that's just Dragon Quest. It's always like that. So that's why this is like the number one game, probably because of, I would say, in my opinion, the story and the kind of effect it had on gaming as a whole. I think the actual gameplay, probably this game has better gameplay, Dragon Quest. But in terms of overall effectiveness and influence, Final Fantasy VII I think is greater, and greater than all of them in that. Xenoblade kind of stays at 3 because it doesn't have the traditional. It doesn't beat, say, Dragon Quest, the traditional kind of aspect, and it doesn't beat Final Fantasy in the revolutionary or aspect. It's innovative in the sense that I would say for me it actually made the MMO kind of gameplay fun. I was actually able to enjoy that type of combat system. I was never able to enjoy it in any other game I played. But I mean, it's not really enough to beat the others, but I think it has a really good what it does extremely well. And it, like, the story also, if you take the sum of the game, it's definitely sticks with you, in my opinion, especially for a Nintendo game. But like Nintendo just doesn't have the best RPGs, and this one, I don't know if this was a Nintendo game when it first came out on the Wii. I mean, it published or developed by Nintendo, but the franchise is now. But I would say this is 3, 2, 1, and an honorable mention. And this is just a personal kind of thing, but it would be Harvest Moon: Back to Nature. This doesn't make the list, but I just think it kind of needs to be. It's a game that really kind of needs to be looked at, because it is an RPG, Japanese RPG, but not in a traditional sense. So it doesn't meet, in my opinion, like any sort of requirement. It's a simulation game, but basically you take over your father's or your grandfather's farm who's passed away, um, and you're kind of timed for 3 years in order to you have to meet certain rules to be able to consider beating the game, or you get a game over. So by the end of the third year, if you haven't met the requirements, such as maybe having a wife or having a successful enough farm, you'll get a game over. Because otherwise, the farm will get sold off, or like the land, the city itself will get sold off to like I think I don't remember what kind of real estate it is, like a roller coaster amusement park or something. But so you spend the years, the 3 years there, kind of developing your farm and trying to get a wife and developing significant relationships. And you level up your farm, your equipment, and your own stats, so you can last longer throughout the day, farming and all of that. And you accumulate money, and you go through mines. It's an extremely fun and addicting game if you're into it. Some people don't like this type of game. Has a small fandom, and it's definitely like a niche franchise. It's to me, the franchise has kind of gotten this is the best game in the franchise, and now I think the franchise is ruined. It's kind of split off into this Modern Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons. They did remake this game a couple years ago, called Story of Seasons. Is it called Back to Nature or something like that? And they kind of removed some of the aspects, because what you see here is that you have you can help the male characters find wives in the town, in this original game. But in the remake, and every Harvest Moon game since, they've removed this feature, because the Japanese fan base doesn't like it. They didn't like it when you were helping other male bachelors get with the black bachelorettes, because they felt like they were like getting left out, even though you can pick one woman to marry, and help the other men, and it kind of builds the community, and it builds the aspect of building the town, and having the RPG aspect, the simulation aspect. But this is the only game that has had that since, and this game's kind of old. The other kind of great thing about this game is, you can just, after the third year and you win, it continues to play. It continues to go on, and you can just do whatever you want after. There's really no there's no game over. I think there might be, if you mistreat your wife, she might leave you. By mistreating her, it's just like kind of neglect or whatever. And your animals can die also. And also, what else can happen? Like, I remember this one thing when I was a kid. I was playing this game, and I played this game since I was a kid. Like, every now and then I'll pick it up and play it. But like, I just wasn't growing many crops, so I kind of grew my entire farm with just grass. And then one day someone came to my farm, and just like, they were like these visitors on vacation. They're like, "Oh, your lawn or something is so beautiful." And it's just completely random stuff like that, because you would never do that normally. Um, that's kind of what I really like about this game, is just its endless replayability. Um, Tons of secrets, tons of things you can do just for fun. You can play this game while you're just like watching, TV in the background, or listening to streams or whatever. Personally, it's one of my favorite games, RPGs, but I wouldn't put it on like a top 3 list. So I would definitely check this out. Maybe download it. You can get it pretty cheap. I think that's on PlayStation Store. But I would say overall that is the top 3 JRPGs of all time for me. So once again, if you want to support the channel, support me, check out one of my books. You won't be disappointed. I get good reviews, good sales. People want to read. I'm writing more right now. I'm always writing, and I'm going to get more content for you soon. So thanks for watching this video. I'll see you next time.